Hi, it's Jeff with Flow Software. Today I want to walk you through how to build manual data entry forms so that you can do things like record values that aren't part of your current instrumentation or data collection strategy, or input things like goals. Let's get started. I've got my Flow config open. I'm running version 7.0.2, and I've already deployed my data sources. So as you see on my model on the left, I've created a folder for my demo today. Inside of that folder, I have an area where I'm going to put the goals, enter the data manually for my goals, and then also compare it to actual, and then give myself some type of a calculation that gives me feedback on how we've been doing to meet those goals. Now, I've already built the dashboard. Let me start there, and then we'll work it backwards. I'll show you how I built it. So my dashboard has two different components in it. The component at the top is a form. It is a form that is based on a daily measure entry. And then below is a chart. This is a time comparison chart, or a time chart, again using daily entries. Notice that the form has a series of two tabs: my actual data, and then the goals. The goals are linked to four different measures: a line 1 production goal, a line 2 production goal, and then a quality goal for line 1 and line 2. My chart is simply showing the amount of production that we did, which has been recorded here as well under the actual, and then charting my goal in the yellow dashed line. So the way that I set this up was, first I had to build the measures for my goals. So let me show you what's involved in that step. I'll just build a new folder. And I'll add a metric to it. Here in my flow zone, I have a daily measure. If I drag it over to the metric, that is going to create by default a manually entered data source. I know that's what happened because I can see the man icon to the left of the daily KPI icon. I can verify that when I open the KPI measure and I look at the retrieval. Here in the right-hand corner is where I can see that that has been set to manually entered. Keep in mind that if there's an existing measure that's been retrieved or has been aggregated or replicated or calculated, I can switch that to be manually entered, but doing so is going to break that measure as it has been in my system. Okay, so I have this. I'll give it a name. We'll just call this my daily goal, line 1. And then when I reopen it, you'll see that name has now changed. Let's take a look at the retrieval. The default value is set to null. I can choose to set it to the previous value, set it to 0, keep it to null, or set it to the instance of a measure. I will set it to a previous value, so it will inherit whatever value was before it, and then I will tell it the initial value. And let's make it 100. All right, so now how do I see this on a web form? Come over to your charts. I'll build a new folder. And then within that folder, I will add a form. My form is going to be time-based, and because I've created a daily measure, I need to choose daily for this form. Let's open this. There's 3 different tabs that I'll be working within. The general is where I change the properties for the form in general. The period will display, will control the number of values that I display for this daily. So if I set it to days and change the start interval to 7 days ago, that is going to show me yesterday and then 7 days, 7 days back of yesterday. If I do to end of value, it's going to show me today as well, because today is the current day, so it'll show me through the end of the day. Keep in mind that on a daily measure, flow is waiting to the end of the day to calculate that measure. So if I click on the tabs, all I have to do now is link my data source by dragging and dropping under the tab. Now let's go ahead and look at this form so that we can compare this form and understand what this section does, and we'll start to build it from there. Okay, so here is the tab header, Video Demo Goals. That corresponds right here with this folder structure. So let's say goal entry, and then let's change the display name of this measure, and we'll just call it line 1. Switching back and a refresh, goal entry, line 1. That means that if I'd like to have a secondary tab, I can come into this blank space, right click, and add a section. So now I could give this a section. Maybe this is a production goal. Maybe this is a quality goal. I can drag the measure into these different areas. And now you can see I have created some order inside of my form. So when we look here, that's exactly what I've done. I have multiple tabs, multiple sections, and multiple measures. To create multiple tabs, add a new tab. And I would do the exact same thing. I would simply drag over more measures that I want to appear in my actual values. So within this form, I can host values that I can change, as well as measures and display measures that I cannot change. Earlier, I was showing you the different types of measures. Anything that's manually entered that's been placed on a form, or anything that is retrieved from a data source that's placed on a form, will have the ability to have the user overwrite those values. Anything that's aggregated or calculated will not be able to have those values overwritten. What does that mean? That means that on this form, under the goals, a user has a green entry field. Green means that you can change it. But here, which are values that have been aggregated, notice that there is no green. These cannot be overwritten. All right, so with my goal entry, I will be able to come in and enter the goals for each day. Now, right now, that line is not letting me do that, and that's because I have not deployed it yet. Notice that I've got a bright orange bar across the top. That is an indicator that I have not deployed this measure. Also, the orange disk that follows up the tree tells me that I have something that's not been deployed yet. With this deployed, I'll be able to come in and enter values. So I asked it to pre-value at 100, which it has now done, and it has extended that each day. Tuesday is not complete. At the end of the day, which is Tuesday, that is today's date, this would fill automatically. Let's say that I want to set the goal for today at the beginning of the day, not at the back of the day. All I have to do, stop my measure and project it forward. So if I'd like to always be able to fill out my goals for the upcoming week, I'm going to project up to 7 days. And I will choose whether I want to actually set to previous value, set to null. Here, I'll just leave it at null. And now let's deploy it. Because I didn't backfill it, it's not going to go through and change the previous values at 100. It will just allow me to now project a value into the full day of today. If I'd like to see more values on my tab or on my form. I come back over to my form, go to the general, and come to the period. So I could show 2 days forward of the end of the interval. What's easier, I think, is to go by week. So now let's look back 1 week, and we'll go to the end of the current week. Now this allows me to go ahead and fill in the goal for today. And if I wanted to continue for the rest of the week. Likewise, I can also make a change to an existing value. Let's change Sunday to 200 and Monday to 250. Now let's take a look at what's happened in Flow's database upon this change. When I look at the measure, I will see that there's now multiple versions of some of this data. Let's break it out and look at it here. So on the 11th is now 250, on the 10th is 200. Notice that there's a preferred version for 250 and it's version 2. Version 1 was originally 100 for the 12th. And it lets me know who entered that value, stamped with my username. Okay. So on my example, what have I done? I have linked into the goals the ability to enter my goal for each line each day. I've also displayed the production values and then calculated the performance. So what did I do in relation to my goal? Then here I've charted what was my goal, what did we actually do. Notice that when I look on filler 2, I've missed by 61%. My actual production was 584,000. Something seems amiss here. When I did 560 and 580,000, I wasn't off by 60%. I was off by 87 and 90%. So if I come back and look, I can see, oh, I might have misentered a value. Maybe instead of 650, I typed 950. I can see here that that is certainly much higher than the rest of my goals were. Maybe it's a mistake. What I'd like for you to see is that we have the capability to do automatic refreshers of these tables, as well as anytime underlying data changes. Let's take a look at the execution percentage for filler 2. Anytime underlying data changes, Flow will automatically recalculate. So there's my 61% execution percentage. And now if I come back and correct that goal to what it was probably supposed to be, 650,000, we'll see that the goal has redisplayed properly down below. And then in about 20 seconds time, the percentage would also change over on the actual. Let's give it a refresh and see if it's already recalculated. And there it has. 89.9% is the accurate value. So the nice thing about this is from the dashboard, if I double click on that value, I can see the details. This shows me the calculation, shows me the goal and the actual. These are the variables of this calculation. So it's what is my actual or my goal, my actual divided by my goal. And then let's look at the history. And when we look at the history, you'll see that I've changed this number a few times. Currently, we're on version number 5, which is the preferred version, and that has now calculated 89.9%. You can see where it was before, you can see where it was originally, and this has been me changing my goal as I set up this demo. So one of the great features of Flow is that anything that is changed in the system is versioned. Anything that's changed in the system also has a full audit trail. So I can come in and see, for instance, on that goal, exactly who changed it, when they changed it. Let's take a look. And we'll come down and we will see on the 12th that we have changed this value. Let me pull, there it is. There's all of my changes from 580 to 650 to 950, and now it's sitting at 650, which is the preferred and 7th version, and here's who changed that each time. So a lot of flexibility in the tool. It makes it really easy to build these manual forms. There's not that much configuration that needs to be done. And my personal favorite thing is that this form has its own URL. So I can come in and pop this out. And when I pop it out, notice that this is on my Flow server. It's in the charts category and it's chart number 81. So I can take that URL, I can embed it in any other application or any other dashboarding tool that I have that supports the iframe. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us, info@flow-software.com.